before the program starts. First of all, I want to thank everybody for braving the fog. You know, normally when we plan a program, we're hoping it doesn't snow or sleet, and we've done very well on that front. But we do have a little fog to contend to, so thank you everyone for coming out. And we'll make sure that you all drive hopefully very safely on the way home. Tonight we're here to talk about the draft of the Iron County planning document. I'm not going to talk about it in specifics, but I want to give just an introduction about the Iron County Citizens Forum that's sponsoring this event. My name is Terry Dalton. I'm the coordinator for the Citizens Forum. We've been in existence for a couple of years now, and we like to provide programs in our county on a variety of topics, everything from environmental, cultural, or civics to folks. So if you have ideas of programs you'd like to see us give in the future, I have a sheet back on the refreshment table where you could write a little note about a program you would be interested in having. I also have a sign-up sheet there that you can put down your name and your email if you'd like to get on our email list to get updates on future programs. We only send out a couple emails a month, and in months that we're not doing programming, we don't really send any, so you're not going to get deluged by a bunch of junk mail from us, but it will alert you to programs or public meetings that are of particular interest to citizens here in the county. I also have a brochure here that kind of outlines what our group is doing. You're welcome to pick up. Gary Tyson, who's one of the steering committee members, was going to be here tonight to do the intro part, and he called last night. He has a terrible head cold and couldn't make it, so he wanted to extend his apologies in particular to not be here. But I said, thank goodness, keep your germs at home. We don't need them. We also have a couple other steering committee members here that I'd like to just note, because these folks are the ones that help out with the press releases and the refreshments and getting everything organized. We have Tom Podlesny here in the front. Raise your hand, Tom. My good husband Jeff is here someplace back over there. Let's see, where's everyone else? Wendy Phoebe, somewhere. And Norm? Did I miss anybody? Oh, Dick Kevlin, right here in the front, yes. Just back from the sunny south. And there's a few other folks that aren't here tonight as well. We have steering committee members from, we try to get geographically from across the county. So it's kind of a loose-knit group, but we're open to your ideas and comments. So with that said, we're going to turn it over to the speakers tonight. Tom Bergman, also our county zoning administrator, has a terrible cold as well. And I don't think it's just an excuse to not have to take public comment or to get any guff from you guys, but if he starts to cough, we're going to send him out the hall as well. He's here to field any questions about the plan that we're going to talk to tonight. And then Jason Lauman from Northwest Regional Planning. And Jason's going to do the brunt of the program tonight. He's the facilitator that's been working with this process. I should just say, for full disclosure, I'm one of the citizens that has had the privilege of working on the committee to develop some of the draft information you'll see tonight, and it's been a really interesting program that Jason has coordinated. We've had a lot of fun thinking about ideas for the future of the county, and I think it's been a good way to also get to know people from all walks of life around the county. There's been a group of citizens and elected officials and county staff. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Jason. One last thing, we are recording tonight for the first time. We're going to try and start recording our programs and then figure out how to put them up on YouTube or something so people who can't attend will be able to participate in programs. We'll see how the technology works on that. And the other reminder to the speakers, it's pretty echoey in here. Can you guys hear me in the back? Just make sure if their voices start to drop and you can't hear, give them a wave or something so they remind them to speak up.
Just yell, speak up.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, thank you, Terry. Again, my name is Jason Lauman. I'm with Northwest Regional Planning Commission down in Spooner. And we are the facilitator in this process. And this process is to develop an asset-based community development project or community development plan. You'll know there are 4 documents up front here, so hopefully everybody has a copy of this. If you don't, you can grab one before you leave. But the first one I just want to highlight has some bars on it, and on the left-hand side it says the first page is nature-based, and then it has a unique category with some bars. These are assets. These are also over on the large foam core over by the voting booths, and they're mapped on the 2 maps you see up front here. So these items correspond to the map locations. Unfortunately, there's too many to put the names on these maps, otherwise we'd have to print them off at wall size. So grab this one. The other document of importance are the preliminary visioning ideas. These are the bullet points. These are just concepts, ideas that have been thrown out in the discussion. Because again, it says preliminary, and that's really where we're at. We're at the early stage of this process. We're just building the background piece of this project and of this document. The third piece is the opportunities. This is a 1-pager, and it has 16 headings on it. These, again, were preliminarily developed by the steering committee, just looking at the assets and saying, based on the assets that we have in Iron County, what are some potential opportunities to capitalize on those assets? So this document came out of that exercise, and this is also up on the back wall. And the last one is a blank sheet of paper with 1 question on it, and it says, what is your vision for the future of Iron County? Please provide bullet point ideas. What I'm going to ask you to do, and we're going to do this in a group setting too, but what I'm asking you to do is, if you didn't want to participate in a group setting, to fill it out and make sure that I get a copy of it, or you can send it to Tom Bergman, or hand deliver it to him, or scan it, email him at the zoning office, just so we've got that input. Okay? So I think what I'm going to do is jump right into it, because I want to try and keep this to an hour and a half, and I want it to be productive and have a good discussion, but we've got some background information to get through. So is there any way we can bring them down a little bit? Okay. So am I going to be in the way here?
Well, I can move. Go wherever you want.
No, I think we're good. I think we're good. Okay, so we're here to talk about the Iron County Asset-Based Community Development Project. So what is community development? I'm sure most of you have heard that term before. It has many definitions, and those definitions vary by discipline. It is both a process and an outcome. It's physical, social, economic improvement in a community at its core. The activities within community development build stronger communities, make them more resilient, and there's an ongoing process of identifying needs, assets, and priority investments. So some communities have a community development director. That's their role. Their role is to work with the community to identify issues or needs, identify the assets and resources they have, and the priorities for investing community dollars. So what is asset-based community development? Well, the key here, this is an alternative approach to traditional planning. And it focuses on community assets and strengths rather than deficiencies. What was done in Iron County back in 2006 with the development of a comprehensive plan was a needs-based plan. It's an issue-based, problem-based planning document. This process is entirely different in that it focuses on strengths and assets rather than the problems. So this plan also identifies and mobilizes, or will identify and mobilize, individual, organizational, and community assets and skills. It's looking at the glass is half full versus the glass is half empty. So again, we're utilizing an asset-based approach which at its core starts with what you see on these maps, what you see on those boards, and what you see listed here. These are the assets and resources in the county. And we're trying to do, what the committee's trying to do, is to identify a community enhancement and revitalization strategy. What's a way that we can use the resources that we have at our disposal today to fix the issues that we have in the community, to make us a better community, make it a stronger and more resilient community. This plan, when it's completed, will replace the existing comprehensive plan that was created back in 2006. And it's going to look a lot different than that document. So who's working on this thing? Well, there's a 9-member steering committee, and we have a few of those representatives here tonight. I won't read through the entire list. And then there were 4 advisors, including Tom Neal from UW Extension, who helped us with youth retention, or no, excuse me, what's called a youth first impressions exercise. Will Andreessen, and of course I'm the facilitator. So this process didn't begin all that long ago, it seems like it. August 2015, the committee has met a total of 9 times, and it will conclude, at least in terms of meeting structure, by the end of 2016. And there will be additional public informational sessions. This is the first one. This is the preliminary information gathering session. There's nothing to react to tonight in terms of actually looking at a plan. So again, we're just reacting to the baseline information that's been created as the background report. The project costs were covered through 2 grants. First through the Wisconsin Coastal Management Program, and second through the Land Information Program, and those Land Information Program funds cover the data development and mapping side of things. This project is being developed concurrently to 2 other projects, the Outdoor Recreation Plan and the Iron County Farmland Preservation Plan. These are not one and the same. They are separate processes, but the information generated in those 2 feed into this. In other words, the committee has looked at the survey that was sent out with regard to outdoor recreation and used that information to help develop some of the information you see on the walls here. So there are 3 steps in this ABCD process. The first is asset identification, which again, the maps, visioning and opportunity identification, and then finally linking opportunities, assets, and the vision together to form a cohesive final plan design. So the first step, and this we started right back in August, the first meeting that we had, was identifying community assets. So what are we talking about when we say assets? Well, there are 4 bullet points here that kind of condense everything. The skills of local residents. We're looking at the resources that people can bring to the table. What skills and talents individuals have. The power of organizations. A number of volunteer organizations within this county, and those organizations bring capital to helping realize the implementation of the plan. The resources of local institutions, and that would include government. And the natural, built, and physical resources and their local economic power. So what are the natural resources on the landscape? What are the built resources? Historic, cultural, all of those fit into that equation too. So again, just a bullet point list: physical, natural, skills, talents, capabilities, and social networks, the connections among people. So there are 3 categories of assets, and those correspond to those 3 foam core boards over there, and they're also in this handout. There's the nature-based, the built, and the human and cultural. Those nature-based assets are those which are important to supporting new and existing nature-based recreation activities and contributing to quality of life. Built assets represent tangible capital investments that provide or may provide important functions that contribute to the quality of life. And the human and cultural, this is the human dimension, which represents the competencies and capabilities of the community. And the cultural dimension, which includes those cultural and historic resources. So some examples of what types of assets would fit into those categories. And you'll see these are reflected in the information that's generated by the committee. In the nature-based, you see things like forest lands and lakes, beaches, the climate, snowfall is mentioned quite a few times. Built assets, things like the marine at Saxon Harbor, water systems, public utilities, health systems, the schools, education systems. In human and cultural side, this includes local arts, festivals, local foods, organizations, heritage sites, cultural sites. Those fit into that side of the asset identification triangle. So how many assets did the committee identify? Quite a few, actually. 91 built assets, 48 natural, and 121 human and cultural. Now there's no competition, there's no idea of trying to generate a bigger number. You're trying to identify the assets that are tangible, that are real, and that will be beneficial to helping the community grow in the future. But the existing businesses were also mapped countywide to demonstrate economic assets. So just a couple photos from some of the exercises that we went on, or we got through back in September, October, where we had maps and went through a process of listing assets and categorizing them, and then spatially mapping them, putting them on the map so we know where those assets lie. There's the map that you see up on both sides up here. So once we'd identified this comprehensive list of assets, these were rated by the steering committee. Unique and significant assets were also identified. So what do we mean by that? Well, unique means they do not occur anywhere else. Those assets are specific to this geographic location. And significant just indicates that those assets are of regional importance. All right? So the tables that were produced show the asset list with those bars. And obviously the bar, the further it goes to the right, the more times people voted, if you will, for that particular asset. So what were the top 3 in terms of voting? And this is just voting based on the steering committee. As far as the human cultural side, the first was Copper Peak. And I should note, assets do not necessarily have to occur in Iron County to affect Iron County. So that's why we see things like Copper Peak and things that are in Ironwood that are in Gogebic County and things that are in Price County and things that are in Ashland County. The Pavo, the Round Barn. Then the top 3 significant, again meaning they're regionally significant, the Colorado driving tours, dedicated groups of volunteers, and the Hurley Mercer libraries. Under the nature-based, the unique do not occur anywhere else. Turtle flambeau flowage, Lake Superior, and abundant snowfall. And I think it sounds to me like they got those up pretty well on track. And the top 3 significant, the Lake Superior Beach, 4 miles of beach, the inland lakes, and the Pinocchio Vistas, the scenic vistas in the Pinocchio Range. On built assets, the most unique was again Copper Peak, ATV trails, and the Iron County Historical Museum. The top 3 significant were the paved bike walking trail, snowmobile trails, and Gogebic Community College. All right, so we're going to move on to step 2. We've gone through, we've identified the assets, we've categorized them, we've rated them, and we've mapped them. Step 2 is the visioning and the opportunities. This is the piece where the steering committee had an opportunity, had a chance to think about the assets that were present and to talk about the value that those assets could bring to Iron County in the future. And we use a process called, or we're involved in a process called the SOAR process. How many of you have heard of a SWOT exercise? Okay, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. That sounds pretty negative. And again, we're trying to keep this process moving in a positive direction. Asset-based. So we use the SOAR process, and this is strengths, opportunities, aspirations, and results. It's essentially getting at the same information, but it's looking at it in an entirely different way. Strengths, these were the things that we identified in the asset exercise. So we had that covered under the first part of the project. The opportunities, which again, you'll see on that back wall far left, and then a handout that's titled Opportunities with the 16 bold headings. These are ideas generated by the committee to answer the questions, where should we focus our efforts? What kinds of things should we be thinking about? How can we best meet the needs of residents and visitors to Iron County? And perhaps most importantly is how can we capitalize on our assets? Now the key word there is can, because at this stage, the only questions we're asking are does, can, maybe. We're not saying will. That comes at the next stage. So I'm not going to read through all of these because, again, you have copies there, and in the interest of time, we're going to go through everything. But the list of opportunities was fairly extensive, but this was the first chance the steering committee had to really think about this. I should note that when you look at the information that's presented as far as opportunities, you see it shown as a bold heading. That was the idea. And what I asked the steering committee to do was to break that down into bite-sized parts. So just as an example, one of the first heading under opportunities here, recreational trail development improvement. That's the idea. That's the potential opportunity. Well, what does that mean? Well, it could mean trail mecca of the Midwest. It could mean water trails. There needs to be more fleshing out of that particular opportunity. This is just the start. So when you see these, don't think this is the end game. This is the process working its way through the process. guess I could just note the headings. So we had recreational trail development improvement, creative community, entrepreneurial, alternative forms of development, development inspired by nature. There was a folk school concept that was brought up, a training area for Olympic snow sports, self-sustainable food, wood resources, and mineral resources. And that mineral would include metallic and non-metallic. Manufacturing opportunities, expanding the healthcare sector, and in particular thinking about with a population that's aging, what are the implications as far as the healthcare sector, and what could be the opportunities as far as economic growth within that sector. Retirement infrastructure. What do you need to support, or what could we have to support retirees? And that population, the proportion of the population is increasing. Attracting people and investments, and vibrant downtowns and meeting spaces. Creation of a brand identity. This has come up a number of times in various aspects. We've had discussions that relate back to a brand or identity building. And the history. What about the stories that are to be told? How can we utilize cultural and historic resources in a way that benefits the community as a whole? And human resources. There are opportunities there embedded within the talents and skills of the residents of Iron County. And that's, I think, where the committee is trying to go with this. I just wanted to highlight this because it was actually a fairly interesting piece of the process. We had a meeting back in December 10th, where we had a student from Montello, is she in high school?
Yeah.
Okay, Montello High School, come up and give the steering committee the results of the Youth First Impressions exercise. And what this was a swap, a student swap. Students from Iron County went to Montello, and students from Montello came here, and they visited communities and they're provided with a list of survey questions. And this was run through University of Wisconsin Extension. That youth exchange was basically designed to get the first impressions on what they're seeing, what they're feeling, what they're thinking when they visit these communities. So we had that representative on December 10th, and she had some pretty interesting things to say.